can do a whole lot of things, but broad brush stroke here, it really can establish structure of a city or a town government. It creates local offices like school committee members, library trustees, that kind of thing. It distributes powers and duties and responsibilities, and establishes and defines procedures to be followed by the town government. And that's really what we're excited about. It doesn't sound super exciting, and if you read the actual home rule charter, it's pretty dense. But once you dive into the weeds of what is within each article of the charter, it involves a lot of things you can really sink your teeth into as a resident. And so that's really what we're hoping to educate people about. And our group is comprised of about 15 active volunteers, plus or minus. And we are all connected to Watertown in some way. Some of us are residents, and some of us work here, some of us both. And we represent a range of generations and backgrounds, and we've all come together because we have a shared passion for government. And we're always looking for more voices and support, especially as we get closer to November. We know we probably will have more on our plate, and we definitely could use support, help, different opinions, different points of view. We welcome that. And we would love for any of you on this call, if you're interested, to either inquire or join us. And hopefully you'll want to after this call if I've done my job. Let's talk. I want to talk a little bit about what we've been working on. Watertown Ford has 3 main operating committees. The top tier is obviously the steering committee, operates just like any other steering committee would. And then we have 2 major branches, and one is the education committee, which is pretty self-explanatory. And then we have an outreach and engagement committee. And really, we're charged with finding new ways to engage residents and promote discussion. And one of our more recent goals has been to grow our social media platforms in order to do that better in today's world. And there are a few other supporting subcommittees that have been formed to support certain initiatives, and we'll get into some of those a little bit later. But what we're working on now, we're working on a variety of things really, but chief among them are our bi-weekly recaps of the Charter Review Committee meetings, some focused community outreach of late, and of course our beloved bi-weekly charter chats, which some of you here may have attended. I see some familiar faces tonight, which is great. So I'll talk in a little bit more detail about some of these. So first is we'll talk about the recaps. So to give you a little background, charters are reviewed on a regular interval. In Watertown's case, every 10 years. So the last review was in 2010. In 2020, we were up for review again. And that got pushed back a little bit because of the pandemic. And so we're still actively in that review process right now. And a committee was established to support that review process called the Charter Review Committee. And it's comprised of both town councilors and community members. It actually has the entire town council on it, which is, I wouldn't say is typical, but we have a large committee that is members and councilors. And they're currently meeting every other Tuesday at 6 p.m. And that's open to the public through Zoom. And Marcy Murninghan has taken on the Herculean task of attending all of these meetings, which can be very long, and synthesizing what's discussed into some sort of cohesive summary that people can read in lieu of or in addition to attending the meetings. And these recaps have really become instrumental in getting the word out into the community, and also it's given us some really amazing tools to offer people who can't attend the meetings, who really want to see what's happening in those meetings. And they offer sort of a macro and a micro level overview of the process, and they're also chock full of links and background material and quotes. Really, really just amazing work by Marcy. I can't applaud her enough on those, and I do not envy all that work that she does. And I'm going to go ahead and put a link in the chat so that you can take a look at those at your leisure. Some nice light Sunday reading for you.
Just did, Janice.
What's that?
I just did.
Oh, look, double. Well, now you don't have an excuse not to read it, folks. So that's the recaps. And then the second of the three that I mentioned is the community outreach initiatives. The O&E Outreach and Engagement Committee, that is, has taken some specific action to link arms with different groups and organizations within the Watertown community. And the goal there is really two-pronged. First, it's to simply expand connections so that we might find other groups and organizations to collaborate with on events or share updates to, or provide some education or presentations to, which is how my face landed in front of all of you this evening. And then the other is to interview organizations serving hard to reach community groups who may find it difficult to get involved for any number of reasons, and figure out how we can help them get their voices heard, and also encourage them to interact in town government. So one of the things that's come out of this work more recently is a survey that we are very proud of and we're excited about. I really have to tip the hat to Nicole here, who's been instrumental in getting this survey created and disseminated to the public very quickly. And right now it's we're still collecting data, but we plan to, just to give you an idea of what it is, it's a very brief and anonymous survey, and it's designed to really gather what our residents' needs and priorities living in Watertown. And once we have all the data analyzed, we will be sharing it widely, as well as directly with the CRC, which is the Charter Review Committee. So I'm also going to take a moment to link that survey in the chat. And I encourage you, if you haven't already, to take the survey. Unless Marcy's already done it, she seems to be moving faster than me this evening.
The other thing I will vamp for you. I will vamp for time for you.
Oh, brilliant! Thank you.
The other thing I would say is, if please, if you can share this with people in your networks. Many people are on social media, but many people are not on social media. And we've tried to hit the Facebook groups we could get onto, but we're not hitting them all, obviously. So, if you can share with neighbors and friends by email, what have you, get that link around. It would be very, very helpful to us. I think we got 250 or so responses in the first couple of days, and we'll pop it out a few more times using those channels. And we're reaching out to various groups to ask them to, email it around. We don't know if people will help us, but for example, Progressive Watertown, that's on my list to write to you guys. I'm going to consider this conversation with you, Michael, my note. If you have an email list, I don't know if you do, but if you do, please send it around. And the same for everybody, for everyone else, any groups you belong to. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you for the vamp. Dun, 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 dun. I'm back. So that link should be there. If it's not working, please let me know, but I think that is correct. And then the third of the three that I mentioned is our charter chats. And these are virtual events that are held every Sunday after the CRC meetings. And we developed these because we saw a need. There's a lot that's being covered during the CRC meetings. And with this new platform of Zoom, it's been difficult for residents to feel like they're getting their voices heard at these meetings. And it's a crucial part of the process, and we saw a need there. And so we created an opportunity to promote discussion in the community about what's happening in these meetings, to have some healthy debate, to share thoughts and ideas, and also it gives us an opportunity to provide some succinct information about the charter review process to the community. And then another piece that we've really emphasized more recently, which we've realized is really paramount to this whole process, is we're giving people information about how they can communicate directly with the CRC and their town councilors. We're doing a lot of work to build relationships and to promote discussion, but if it never makes it to the CRC, it's not it's not helpful. So we've really been pushing lately to help people take advantage of different channels of communication to get directly to the CRC. So we've held 8 charter chats so far, which is just wild to me. I feel like we just started them. And we actually have one coming up this Sunday. I would encourage you to attend. It's at 3 o'clock. And please bring a friend or bring 10 friends. Come one, come all. The more the merrier. And you can find information about that on our website, on our Facebook page, and on our weekly emails that go out, which I will give you the links to all of that at the very end of this presentation. And from these charter chats, you know, some really exciting things have emerged from these charter chats. And number one is a document that we're calling the Platform of Ideas. It sounds boring, but trust me, it's a very exciting document and we're very proud of it. And it's definitely something that is becoming more valuable as it grows. So it's basically a collection of ideas that's come out of these 8 charter chats. And it's become sort of a repository for suggestions that we have for the CRC to change the charter. And we've broken this list of ideas down into 7 categories. And it's a living, breathing, evolving document. It started off with a list of maybe 15 suggestions, and now I think we have upwards of like 40 or 50. And of course, not all of them will be represented in the charter, but it's also turned into sort of this dual purpose charter ideas and also just sort of wish lists for a better town, which I think are useful to capture as well in these conversations. And we've also shared this document with the CRC, and we will continue to share it as we make substantive changes or we think that they need a little reminder about what the people want. And so we encourage you to also share ideas about that platform of ideas that we can add or we can edit. And I'll show that to you in just a minute at the end of this presentation as well. So you can take a look because we love your thoughts. And we want you to maybe even think about what might be missing from this list, because it's certainly not exhaustive and it grows every day. And I will link that as well in the chat for you so that you can take a look. This is the latest version as of, I believe, a little over a week ago. Hopefully that worked for you. So I am going to share my screen with everybody. Let's see if I can. So hopefully you can see that. So these are the 7 categories that we've broken down the platform into. And then underneath each of these 7 categories is a whole host of ideas and suggestions for ways that we might change the charter or improve our town more broadly. And so you can read them here, but I'll just briefly go through. The first is what we're calling our JEDI category, which is justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion, very relevant to some of the conversations today. Transparency, evaluation, and disclosure. Balance of power and capacity for the legislative and executive branches. Communication and responsiveness, which really captures both outgoing and incoming communication, the 2-way communication. Fiscal responsibility and civic investment. And we decided to add civic investment because, you know, fiscal responsibility in our eyes goes beyond just budget and money per se. It also includes whether you're, you know, a partisan or not partisan, whether you're a profit or not-for-profit business or new development coming into town. We want to hold some of these businesses accountable for bringing value into our town. And you were talking very specifically, I can't remember who it was this evening, about some ways that we can hold these developers accountable for making sure that they're thinking green and creating some vibrancy and some art in our community, adding to the culture of our community and representing the culture in our community. So we added that civic investment piece. And then the charter review process itself is kind of a meta approach to thinking about the actual process of reviewing the charter. And then last but not least, this particular charter review committee has proposed adding a preamble to our municipal charter, which I think is just a fantastic idea for so many reasons, but it's basically a vision values statement of the town. And Marcy is really involved in that process right now. There's also a subcommittee that's formed out of the CRC that's looking specifically at creating a preamble. And there's also a communications subcommittee out of the CRC as well. And let's see. Wow, we're done. Last but not least, I hope I made up for a little bit of that time, Tony. But these are just different ways you can stay in touch with us. You know, I really want to thank you for your time and your attention. I know that a lot of people are experiencing Zoom fatigue, so I'm really glad that you hung out with us tonight. And these are ways to hang out with us again if you thought we were fun. So, and we are. So these are some upcoming events. We have the next Charter Review Committee meeting is actually going to be a public forum. This is a brand new approach to how the meetings have run since now, where the public can weigh in and give their thoughts on this very hot topic of whether we should keep our current form of government, which is the town council manager form, or if we should switch to a mayoral form of government. That's been discussed at length through this whole process, and we still haven't really come to a decision yet. And so this is an opportunity for us to make a decision as a town and a council together. So that's one not to miss on April 6th at 6 p.m. They don't have an end time because we have a feeling it's going to go long. The next charter chat, like I said, is Sunday, 3 to 4:30 p.m. Bring your friends, bring your pets, Arun, they're all welcome. We have the preamble subcommittee meeting through the CRC is happening on March 22nd. That's coming right up. And also the communication subcommittee meeting is tomorrow at 5 o'clock. And then this is the way to get in touch with us. Our email, our webpage, which is beautiful. It was built and it's maintained by Nicole. She did an awesome job. And then also join our Watertown Forward Facebook group. That's a great way to stay in touch with us if you are on Facebook. Otherwise, I would really suggest just signing up for our email list, because we send out, you know, maybe we don't inundate your inbox, but we make sure you have all the information you need. And I think that's everything. I have Marcy here to keep me honest if I've missed anything important. And I think we'll probably be going into a bit of a Q&A if I remember, Tony. Yeah.
Yes. Well, first, thank you, Janice.
You bet.
I think we really appreciate the presentation. Thank you very, very much.
It's my first performance I've had in months.
So let's open it up a little bit here to some questions about Watertown Forward, this new group in town that's trying to make a difference. I just want to reiterate the two key goals of this group is not only, as Janice said, to not only to involve people, but primarily to try to get people involved in this charter review process, which I just can't tell you how important it is. But we can talk about that in questions. But the second part is to also, the second goal is to engage people in town government. And the hopes are that the engagement in the charter will lead to engagement and on an ongoing basis for people into town government, whether that is by attending more council meetings, by becoming active in one of our many town committees or commissions, or just being, just being active in any of the potential activities of the town council, whether to get excited about one of the possible ordinances that we're working on and something like that. So let me open it up to Q&A right now and see if anybody have any questions for Janice.
I just want to mention just that because the second half of our meeting is going to be a chance for people to really say what they want to see in town government and all of that, that this is really a time to ask Janice any questions about Watertown Forward and how it's working, as opposed to say, well, I would like to see this, I'd like to see that, because we have time for that, which Abby will facilitate.
It looks like Eric has a question. Go ahead, Eric.
And Marcy.
And then Marcy has a question.
Yeah, so I mean, this is really exciting. I hear from Tyler mostly about what goes on because the chats happen during a family call for me. But one thing I've been observing is I would personally like to make sure that some small businesses, especially the ones I like, know about this. And I just wasn't. I wanted to know if you had any success reaching out. I sent the survey to some, but it turned out to be kind of challenging to contact them because some of those small businesses in town don't have websites or effective contact info. So yeah.
Yeah, great question, and very timely. And Nicole can jump in here too and support. So one of the more recent goals of the Outreach and Engagement Committee is to directly interface with Watertown businesses that may have an interest in the charter, but maybe more broadly just town government, engaging in town government, like Tony said. And so we have a long list right now that we are slowly working through to reach out to some of these organizations and businesses. That said, it's not an exhaustive list, certainly. It's just what we have come up with as a committee and you know what we're affiliated with or happen to be aware of. So what I would suggest is either through Tyler, or if you, Eric, want to email us, please feel free. We're always looking to expand that list and grow that list.
Okay.
Especially if there are businesses that you're excited about. You're obviously very engaged in town, so that's a win-win-win.
All right.
Please let us know.
Right now, yeah, just for clarity, right now, we're not writing to businesses, Eric, but we have, I think Nancy, actually, we had a meeting this morning and one of our members, Nancy Hammett, will be writing to a bunch of different organizations, and I don't recall the names of them, so forgive me, but like the equivalent of the Rotary Club and the Watertown Civic Business.
Oh, good. Okay. Places that the businesses are connected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now we're hoping we're going to ask them then to
Good.
forward to all their members, you know, fingers crossed that they will do so. But we don't, if somebody has a list of every single business in Watertown with their emails and wants to send it to me, I'm more than happy to send it on out, but that's going to be our channel.
Okay. Thanks.
Thanks, Nicole.
I think the Chamber of Commerce is sort of Belmont, Watertown combined, if I understand.
No, there is no more Chamber of Commerce. The new group in town for the last maybe a year, maybe less, is the Watertown Business Committee or Watertown Business Council. It is done by one of the Eurasian sons and a guy named Don Orifice, and they have been doing the best they can to work with. And many of these are mostly small businesses. These are not your large Athenas and well, we don't have Tufts anymore, but they're not the large businesses, mostly the smaller businesses. But it's a good group. They're doing good work. They even organize a little art, a discussion of art in town. And they also have been doing a lot of work trying to support the small businesses during the COVID. So it's a new group, and they could definitely be someone might be interested in what they're doing. So Marcy had a question.
I just wanted to make a comment and provide some context here, which I think is really important. Charters, you know, it goes back to Magna Carta, but a charter is traditionally, until the last 100 years or so, were steeped in civic moral values. It was a major part of what that covenant or promise was all about. And in the early days of this country, both the influence of the Iroquois Confederacy, especially the seventh generation principle, along with the sort of various religious and civic beliefs of the colonial settlers, combined in the chartering process, which affected not just cities and towns, but also churches, schools, businesses, and what we would now call social enterprise or nonprofit institutions. And what has happened over a couple of centuries is the impoverishment of that chartering process, which has become highly bureaucratized, captured by lawyers, and so dry as to almost crumble when you hold it. At this moment in history, especially for Watertown, I think the moment is ripe for a reinvigoration of those truths we hold to be self-evident, that do speak to the kind of values held by those who were here before us, by those who came, by those who are still coming. And so I think as we sort through, at least in the charter review process, of what fits, what doesn't, it's really about bringing back to life that civic engagement, that public moral dimension that applies to the entire community, particularly the intersection of all the different members of the community and then Watertown's place in the world. I want to say that because a lot of times we just think of having grown up in urban politics and watching my father deal with charter stuff in Lansing, Michigan. I know it can also often be seen as a very clinical, boring kind of process, but we're in a position to infuse it with meaning and restore what that public constitutional promise is, the purpose part of it, with the rights and responsibilities to its proper place in our public life.
Thank you, Mark. Any other questions that people have about Watertown Forward or its work? Yes, Jennifer, please.
So I'm curious, I know you said that you're non-partisan and looking at all the different views, but I'm curious from the conversations that people have been having, if there's sort of a leaning one way or another as far as having a mayor version compared to a town manager version, or what structures people tend to be leaning towards. I was reading some of what was online and I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
Just curious.
It's been an interesting conversation for sure, and it's taken a lot of iterations. I think we really started getting into the weeds of mayor versus manager, and then this is my opinion of how the conversation steered away from whether one form is better than the other to really talking about it's the people within those forms of government that really make it work. And then within each form of government, there are a number of different permutations. From what I learned through a forum we held with John Hecht and Roberta Miller, there are a number of different permutations of power structures within the mayoral form of government, within our current form of government. And that, it's really not this black or white. It would be wonderful and easy if it were that simple, but we're finding that the conversations have become much more nuanced about how, what is the balance of power that we're looking for, and can we achieve that in our current form of government? My opinion is the answer is probably yes. If we really dig deep and start to get to work and look at what hasn't worked and what we can do to fix that. Other people think differently, and that's a-okay. But I don't know if I have an impression, Jennifer, about sort of where we're leaning or not leaning. It was interesting. I think it was Marcy, correct me, 3 CRC meetings ago, or maybe 2. And I think it was Councillor Woodland had motioned for a straw poll just among the committee members during a meeting to see, because he had the same question that you have, where does everybody stand? I don't even know where we stand as a committee. And a lot of people abstained because I think we're realizing that that's not the crux of the issue here, what form we need to go with. It's really, the power, the balance of power with the people that we have. So that's my best answer. I don't know if Tony, Marcy, or Nicole have anything more they want to add to that.
Thanks.
Sure.
No, I think we've been trying to stay nonpartisan on this. I think there is split opinion on whether one or the other is the better way to go. Mm-hmm. I do want to say that the CRC meeting that took place last night was a critical meeting and a crucial meeting. And it was at that meeting that we've decided that the next meeting would be not so much a meeting, but as a public forum. And the public forum will be on the question, only question to be discussed at that public forum will be, what do residents think about the mayor, town council versus council/town manager form of government? and it'll be devoted completely to that. And the goal right now, and this is really where some people really felt a little bit upset, was that they only have 3 weeks to publicize this meeting. And this is a meeting that, as Lisa Feltner said, this is the most important thing that Watertown will do this year. And then there's a lot of important things that they're trying to do. But this is a question. Do you really want to change it? So we're going to have to talk about this as a committee. I know our steering committee for Watertown Forward meets tomorrow morning at 8:30. And I'm sure that when the committee that designs the charter chat this coming Sunday, it will be front and center. What can we do to get the word out about how important April 6th at 6 o'clock is? Let me recognize Chuck has a question, and then maybe we will move it over to Abby so we can begin the facilitation part. But Chuck?
It looked like Marcy, you wanted to add something in?
Let me just add this quickly. My dad was mayor of Lansing, Michigan. I grew up in that. He was on the council for 10 years before that. I've seen so many mayors and managers. My whole thing is governance, mostly in the corporate sector and the private sector and with money. And, there's good, there's bad, there's ugly. And it really depends on the situation. There's no one size fits all. I can say this with a great deal of confidence. It really comes back to what's working, what's not working. How do you sort your way through that? Because institutions are very complicated things, and they're little power centers, and they're organizations, they're sort of norms and jobs. It gets into all kinds of stuff. So, it's easy for me to be agnostic because I've seen it all work and not work. But I think the core thing is to think about the kind of community that we who live here would like to see, and how that conforms to the ideals that we hold dear, and what are we going to do to get there, and then see what comes out of that. I mean, that to me is a way of working forward on this by learning, growing, looking at, aspiration and sort of job descriptions and stuff like that, not just picking a structure because we think it's going to work.
All right, let me take this last question because I don't want to steal any more time from Abby. So let's take the last question, Chuck.
Okay, it's all right. I'll stand back. It's okay.
You got time for it. What is the question?
All right. Well, my question is, what I was interested in, those of you, first of all, thanks for this presentation, Janice, Marcy, everybody, Tony. My question is, for those of you who have been closely involved with this, have there been any kind of surprises or things that happened that really kind of caught you, and that maybe was insights or in the process itself that kind of caught you off guard, or were surprises to you that you've learned?
Oh, I love a feelings question, Chuck. Yeah, I think I'm new enough to the charter itself and to Watertown Forward that I feel like I've been drinking through a fire hose. So I don't know if one particular thing has stood out to me, except for I have a whole new appreciation for not just the charter, but town government. More than I ever have. And I've been involved in some state level politics with John Hecht in the past, and that's been very exciting, but I've never felt more charged than digging deep into my own town, in my own community, and really being involved in a shift really in how we're engaging in town government. Even though Zoom has been challenging, we're seeing, I guess, historically, what I'm hearing is that there's a lot more participation in some of these events than in past in-person town hall meetings. So that's really exciting. I'm really excited to see movement. I'm really excited to see all of these organizations sort of linking arms, Watertown Citizens for Black Lives, PJE, environment. So I think I'm just sort of in this like starstruck moment where I'm like, wow, this is so cool. And I've been here for 6 years. I wish I'd started sooner. So that's just my, I guess that's my response to that, sort of broad, but okay. I don't know if Marcy has or Nicole has anything else they want to add.
All right, well, let's move on then to.
Well, I could add just one quick thing. Sorry, Tony, I keep doing this to you. I know you hate it.
Yeah, no,
we're in a moment now where local politics is enjoying a resurgence all across the land. I've lived here for 20 years. I'm surprised at the level of fear and the level of sort of the kind of this legacy of an inferiority complex. It seems to permeate a lot of the discussions. Fear of change, fear that someone's going to lose their power and so they can't, budge off something, the fear of the new. And also this sense that somehow bold action, reimagining government, thinking about how we can seize the moment, especially for a place, my God, Watertown will be 400 years old in 10 years or 9 years. You know how cool that is? It's like, wow, take the power and use the power and the voice and the agency and reinvent it, so that's my takeaway.
All right. Let me, thank you, Marcy. Let me introduce Abby, who many of you know. Abby's been on our steering committee for many years, and many of us know her as a member of the steering committee, an advocate for Palestinian rights, an advocate on issues around U.S. foreign policy. But she also has spent most of her career as a facilitator. And we're very happy that she's going to share some of those facilitation skills to help us walk through questions around what we value and how that might affect some of our thinking around the charter. So Abby, you're on.
Thank you, Tony. I think this is going to be facilitation light because this is really about inviting all our collective input about the values. So Janice, thank you for such a lovely, clear presentation. And when she presented the preamble, as you heard, they've already identified some values. So I'm just going to share this screen for a second, which is this piece, because what we want to ask is what values would you like to see in town government as it relates to leadership and policies? So some of the ones that Janice already shared, I'm not going to repeat it. You see them here. And Janice, I added on the bottom inclusion of all voices because that seemed to be maybe a little separate from, I don't know if it's included in the others. So these are the values that, and as Janice told us, that these will be represented in the preamble. But the question for us is, what values would we like to see represented in town government? Let's not repeat what they've already identified, but what I'm going to do is invite us all to type in at the same time. Before we actually discuss it, I want to give you an opportunity to type in what are some of the values that you would like to see represented. I'm going to explain how to use this. This is a whiteboard. And what you do is you go to the top of your screen and click on View Options. And you'll see an option to annotate. Click on Annotate. And you'll see a black menu. And on the left-hand side, there's a T for text. So you're going to click on the T. And you're actually, I'm going to type the word values here so you can see it. So I'd like you to click on the T and then tell us what values are important to you. If you could use like a 3 or 4 word phrase, because we'll ask you afterwards if it's not clear to us, we'll ask you to tell us verbally what you mean by that. Does everyone see the annotate menu?
I don't see it.
So at the top of your screen, you should see a black thing that says View Options.
Right.
Click on that.
Yeah.
And under that, do you see an option to annotate?
No.
Is this not turned on in the Zoom settings?
It's working for me. It's a drop-down menu and you go down, and you'll see it.
Working for me too.
I only have 5 items. Standard, side by side,
So-
speaker.
You're clicking on the wrong one, Deborah.
Oh,
I think I can resolve this for you. If you take your mouse and you hover over the top bar of the window, you should see a little green bar that says you are viewing Abby's
Yes,
screen.
yes.
Right next to that is View Options.
oh,
There, yeah.
wait a minute.
It kind of disappears if you go off your
Gotcha.
window. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
Annotate. Got it. Thank you.
You bet.
I'm just going to give you a few minutes to type in your. Oops. So just try to, let's not repeat what they've already listed in the preamble, in the document that Janice shared with us. Deborah, at the top, you should see the annotation menu, and there's a T for text.
Got it. Sorry. I could probably erase that, right?
Ooh, look at you go, Deborah.
No,
Wow.
I haven't done it yet. I haven't done it yet. Now I
Well,
forgot
you
what I was going to
erased,
say.
all right.
It wasn't my best.
And we'll just give it a few minutes. You are allowed to, you can type more than one if you want. Is anyone still typing? Oh, I guess a few people are. Pam, is that meant to say something, be more than clear? Pam? So I'm actually going to delete that. So Janet, innovative.
Clear communication.
Innovative what, Janet? Okay, so let's pause here. Janet, are you there somewhere? Did you want to say something more than innovative, Janet?
Oh, I think that was mine actually, or one of mine. Innovative, I was just thinking of constantly looking to new ideas or solutions, or, you know, always looking ahead. And does that make sense?
Looking ahead. What does looking ahead mean, Margaret?
I mean, I keep hearing people talk about the 21st century, but I think we need to look beyond that. And you know, in all areas, you know, in the infrastructure or the budget or.
Okay. Okay, I'm just going to move some things. There was green, because there's a bit of overlap here. So this this green thing. Those are similar. Does anyone else see any other similarities here? Things that overlap? These three seem kind of similar. Fairness, all are valued, inclusion, right? Any other similarities you're seeing?
I mean, sustainable and green can go, yeah. It goes beyond those, but yeah.
Okay. So valuing diversity, it's kind of similar to all are valued and inclusion, isn't it?
Mhm.
I would agree.
Okay.
Yeah, there's respect for diverse opinions on the right side.
Where's that?
Right side, right column near the second paragraph up from the bottom. Respect
Oh,
for diverse opinions.
respect for all opinions. Yep.
For diverse opinions.
Yeah, now sustainable green is kind of between the green ones and the protecting the earth for generations. That's good.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions about what people have written so that we can ask them to clarify what they mean? Oh, that green thing came down here somehow. This green one goes up there. Yep. Are we all clear on what it says? Is there anything unclear?
Let's see.
Seems kind of clear, doesn't it? So I don't know that I don't think we're voting on these. Tony, you know, we wanted to generate a list, but I don't know that we're going to gain agreement about them.
The shared
that-
well-being probably. Welcoming, safe, vibrant. Maybe
I'm sorry, I'm not.
Somebody needs to mute this coughing. Anyway,
Did you
just
say it again?
I thought
Could
the
you say it
shared
again?
well-being, yeah, that the shared well-being that's on the extreme right maybe belongs with the welcoming, safe, vibrant.
Okay. Janice, what do you think about our list here?
Loving this list. It looks really great. And usually I like that there's even just sort of adjectives because it can spark some really interesting conversation. And I like that you added a category. I can't remember what it is now, but like I said, I usually update the platform usually every week or every other week. So if there's a way that I can capture this and keep it, I can,
Yes.
if something isn't already represented in the platform of ideas, I can work in some of these concepts into it.
Yep. So we can all actually save this on our computer.
Oh, great.
In the annotation menu on the right-hand side, you should see a save button.
Yep.
Click on save. It will save it on your computer.
Great. Got it. Thank you very much, Abby.
Yep. And I'm just going to tell you, if you all save it, because I saw Deborah getting excited, it creates a folder on your computer called Zoom. And under Zoom, it's going to have the name of the meeting. So it might say something like Watertown Citizens with today's date. And if you double click on that, this is a whiteboard and it saves it as an image.
PNG file.
Yep. Does anyone have any comments about what's here?
I'd be interested in knowing who the welcoming, safe, vibrant. I wonder what people think about the word safe. I don't know who put that in there, but
Who wrote that one?
It was me. I think it's just a word that's on a lot of people's minds at the moment. Like you want to be in a community where everyone feels welcome and feels safe. I mean, I'm just listening to the news about the shootings in Georgia and how many people are closing their businesses early and staying home because they don't feel safe. So it's maybe just this moment in time, but it feels a kind of baseline that your community should be safe.
Mhm.
Thank you. I would add to that. I mean, that one resonated for me because I would add to that it's they're discussions in town. Some of the most charged discussions in town are because people do not feel safe, and that's something we need to work on.
So there was, from Margaret talking about Georgia, that was physical safety. And Eric, when you said no safety, what kind of safety would you add to that?
Safety from racism and harassment and bias and bigotry. So I mentioned race, but also LGBTQ, disability. These sorts of things have been coming up in as with well, and the entire Instagram story share. We're seeing with the story share from the schools, we're seeing many instances of people not feeling safe.
Not just the school.
And not just the school, because that goes beyond the school. Sorry, I'm rambling, but there's lots of these. That's my point.
So there was a bit of cyber security in there, sort of what's posted online.
No, not cybersecurity. This Instagram, it's a story share where people tell stories about their experience of bias, and so it's not so much. Yeah. So it's not their experiences online normally. It's their experiences in the everyday world.
And they're shared anonymously because they don't necessarily feel safe to share them not anonymously.
Right. Thank you for clarifying. Yeah.
Sure.
I'll give you a really gritty example. We have a little thing. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, why don't you finish?
I'll just give you an example, Abby. We have a little thing in town that some of us belong to called Buy Nothing. And I, as a white woman, if I walk up to somebody's porch or I walk in the backyard to pick up something that was left for me, feel perfectly safe. I am not concerned that anyone will harass me, stop me, question me, challenge me in any way. And if they do, I just say, oh, I'm a neighbor. I belong to the, And that's not true for all of members of our community. People of color in particular, I think, may feel that they will be challenged in ways that I don't expect to be. So there's so many little subtle things that those of us who are in majority stances don't experience, and therefore we may not be aware of them. We may in fact be doing them ourselves, whether we know it or not. So I think that's part of what people are trying to get at is that.
Thank you. Yep, thanks. Sue Ellen.
I was just going to say, I think safe sort of depends on your perspective and your attitude, so that there are people in town who feel like they want the police to keep us safe and make us feel safe. There are people who feel like those are the last people that make someone feel safe, depending on whether they're, Muslim or Black or brown or, as various things. So I think there's also that tension between how people define safety, and it depends on how you experience not feeling safe and where you want to trust. Where in the town do you anticipate or expect or want to find that safety?
So there's something about the equality of safety that everybody has the same sort of level of safety, if I can say that. Eric, and sorry, I just wanted to say that if any of you want to add any of what you're saying to the whiteboard, I think, Janice, you're taking notes anyway, right?
I am, yeah. Thank
you know what I'm gonna do? Just hold on 1 second. I'm gonna open a new board because we're kind of running out of room there. So just a second, okay? If there's some sort of clarification you'd like to add, please go ahead. Sue Ellen, were you gonna, Sue Ellen and then Deborah?
No, I lowered my hand, so I'm good.
Deborah?
I was going to say, I put shared well-being, and to me that's related to safety, because it's not just that, it's important to me that everyone feels safe, because if they're not safe, I'm not really safe either. It's important to me. And to me, it's really been brought home by the pandemic, because we are all living and sharing the same space. And if other people are sick, then I'm not safe either. So it's really like, it's not just an external value, it's sort of an internal value. It's for my own safety. Everyone should be safe. Because if they're not safe, then I'm not going to be. Situations could change, and I could be the unsafe one.
Yes, lovely. The words that came to mind for me about that were some kind of collective responsibility for keeping everyone safe, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Other comments? Tony? Tony, unmute. Yep.
I'd be interested in knowing to the first screen, the one around profit and people, and who put that in and what did they mean by that?
That was me. And I think our whole nation and our whole culture is obsessed with and controlled by unfettered capitalism, frankly. And we don't privilege making our environment, our society, our interactions, our everything people-centric. And I think we need to put people first. I think growth is, we need to stop pursuing growth. We're killing the planet. I feel like in all the decisions we make, if we're looking at, which new companies are coming into town, what new buildings are being developed, we need to use our leverage to ensure that for every building, we're going to have parking and community gardens and community space for the arts and gathering centers and I don't know that we do that. It doesn't feel to me that we do. And I think we should.
Great.
And I think the community is one of the last places where there's still vestiges of valuing, people over profits. And so we're in a place where we can sort of grab hold of that in a way that on this, larger field, it's harder to do.
Marcy, unmute.
I just want to make a pitch here, because this is a field that I've been in and helped to build for the last almost 35, 38, 39 years. I've lost since 1983. Businesses are more open to this than you might realize. There's a lot going on capitalism. There's a lot going on to reimagine all this, to infuse it with civic moral meaning and practical impacts and consequences. That is what Watertown can do. So it's within our reach, folks.
Thank you. Tony, you were going to say something.
Well, I just think I put the issue of community control of development. I think that I'm struggling with how we're going to do that. And I've been struggling with that for a while, particularly as the life sciences have adopted Watertown to be the next Kendall Square.
Yeah.
And have come in full force here with any piece of property that is available, any new development on unused land or redevelopment on used land. It's just all been around life science, biotech, and there seems like there's no way to stop it, and I'm not sure how to control it. And I think some of the things that Nicole just mentioned, what we can demand out of developers to sort of shift their motivation. I don't, with all the statements from developers, and I'm thinking of one particular when I sat in on a recent developers meeting about being neighbors and wanting to be good neighbors. And, the bottom line for them is profit. And they will be as good a neighbor as it is necessary for them to be able to do their business. And when doing what they need to do to make a profit gets in the way of being a good neighbor, they will choose doing what they need to do to make a profit.
Yeah.
So this concept of neighbor is, we don't use that term. We don't talk about being neighbors from an economic perspective. We talk about our neighbors as people who we talk to across the fence, or we share, our children with, or we don't see, those are neighbors. It's hard to imagine a multi-million dollar real estate developer who now has 4 properties in Watertown as being your neighbor. And no one asked us as residents whether we wanted them to be our neighbor and to come into Watertown. But there's a certain inevitability about this too. You don't have any control over what people do with their property. There's just, you can control some certain things, and there are things in Watertown that the developers have to abide by in terms of ordinances around transportation, around design. And you can force folks to abide by our biotech regulations. But, when push comes to shove, they're there for only one reason. And they wouldn't be here for any other reason. So it's a tough thing to discuss, and it's hard to figure out how to control it.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, I understand what you're saying, Marcy, and coming from a Fortune 500 company, you're right, at corporate leaders, there are corporate leaders right now. And I think the first time I saw it was with LGBTQ, where they led, companies led our country in recognizing domestic partnerships way back. But I'm talking about here and now. And, Tony, the only thing I hear exactly what you're saying. I do think we have leverage in that we have a location that can't be beat, so I don't know how we use it, but we have it. And so, yeah, that's what I'm struggling to think through.
Yeah.
But I wish that I would like our town or our city, I'd like us to stand for that, or to say that, we are first and foremost our citizens. We're not land for the use of profit by companies who feed shareholders. First and foremost, we care about the people in our community, and therefore these are the things we're going to strive for when we think about development, et cetera, et cetera.
Great, Nicole. Janice?
I agree wholeheartedly with what Tony and Nicole just said. And I just wanted to put this out there. I'm involved with the Watertown Business Coalition that Tony had mentioned earlier. And they just announced that there is going to be a CEO panel from the biotech businesses that are coming into Watertown. I think it's a panel of like 4 or 6 different CEOs from these companies. And that's happening on Thursday, April 29th at 4 p.m. And they're going to sort of pitch their development. And then we're going to ask some hard and provocative questions about what they're bringing to our town. We're going to hold their feet to the fire, hopefully. That's my plan. I don't know if that's Watertown Business Coalition's plan, but that's my plan. So I would encourage any of you who have overlapping interests with what Tony and Nicole are discussing to attend. And it's on their website as well. But it seems to overlap with some of the conversations here. And I just might add too, and if I don't know if Tyler is still on the call, but a lot of the conversation around safety and sort of just broadly, safety from a diversity perspective begs the conversation of what we're defining as diversity. And I think they've done some of that work in the Jedi community talking group about what are we using to define diversity, because different people have different ideas about what that is, but that can also include things like socioeconomic diversity, neurodiversity, a whole host of things that people don't necessarily think about immediately when they think about diversity. And I think as as an aunt to two amazing nephews who live with autism, this has been a very, very trying time for them. Because neither of them, and this is getting into the weeds a little bit, but just to qualify, neither of them can wear a mask because it becomes a restraint because they don't understand it and they pull and they bleed and it's a mess. But they've been forced, they've been marginalized because of that. And that's a hard conversation to have, right? Because you don't want them to be unmasked, but we can't imprison them in their home. And, to me, that is also a part of this conversation of safety is, it's super nuanced. And I think it's important that we talk about it in a nuanced way and thinking about diversity very broadly. So that just is something that occurred to me to just throw in the conversation somewhere. But yeah, I'm definitely taking notes, but before you take down all these whiteboards, Abby, I'm going to resave it because I know you've been editing too. So.
Right. And you only save it once, it will save both pages.
Oh.
Yes. Yep.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Anyone else? Tony, I liked your question about when you said, I don't know how to control it. I don't know how to, I'm not sure if you were talking only about development. And I don't know how to enhance or increase the input of the town residents in this kind of decision making. I think that's what the charter is all about, but something about finding out that what was it, Walmart that we stopped being built here? Wasn't it Walmart?
Yeah.
Yep.
I think one of the ways, this is a little bit in the weeds, but our planning board, which issues special permits to developers, and our planning board is selected by the town manager. And one of the points that one of the potential changes that you could see in the charter, and then this was raised by a number of people, is that the planning board should be chosen by the council, and where there's a much more public discussion and there's much more open transparency about what these planning board folks believe their responsibility is. Now, obviously, they are like any other board constrained by what they can do legally and by what kind of ordinances are zoning and what is our zoning code. But one of the ways to maybe open up this process a little bit so that it is seen like if you have planning board members who are who see the community as their constituency, as opposed to developers as their constituency, that may make a difference. But it's a tough road to hoe, and it takes such a long time. The whole issue of a transportation demand ordinance that developers have to follow, that took 2 years. There's just a lot of time to get is involved to get any kind of control over what developers do. But it doesn't mean it can't be done. It just takes time.
Well, the transportation demand management, it not only took you 2 years to get it done, but it's not clear to me that they're actually using it.
Well, that's another thing. So
then there's sort of oversight and there's transparency and I mean, for me, that's one of the big sort of issues that's driving me in terms of the charter, is that the town council passes something and the town government doesn't necessarily follow through.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you
think
don't
that-
know, you don't even know because you don't have access to any of the sort of information.
Right.
It also reminds me of the time, amazing amount of time that we all spent at those community meetings to create a long-range plan for Watertown and, all the work that was done. And yet then the Pleasant Street developments happened and other things happened that completely sort of defied what people had expressed as them, what they wanted. And so many complaints about zoning board decisions that have happened in individual neighborhoods. And yeah, it's ongoing problems.
Yeah. And I do want to, I wish I had been more forceful at the CRC meeting the other night when one counselor basically said, well, this is, all the things that people are talking about can be just done through the town council, and all you have to do is put in a referral goes to committee, the committee will have a hearing, the public will be involved, the committee makes a decision, it gets sent down to the council votes, and there you go, it's all done. And the unrealistic scenario that was I just presented, it is actually laughable. It's laughable, right from the point of basically saying what gets referred, or how do you make a referral? If you don't have 5 votes, nothing gets referred anywhere. You could pass an ordinance that you could do your budget guidelines that say we want a communication person and we want an assistant town manager and we want that assistant town manager to do communication. If the town manager doesn't put that in the budget, it doesn't make a difference. So that the number of holes in that sort of Cinderella looking description of how town works was really pretty. I regret that I didn't challenge it more.
Well,
So
the
I
thought that
think-
occurred to me was, so why haven't you done any of these things?
I mean, one person said, if we'd wanted to be responsive, if we'd wanted to have a open meeting, if we'd wanted to talk to the citizens, we would have done that. I just fell off the chair. Like, well, why the hell didn't you,
Yep.
Oh my God.
So I want to suggest that we wrap it here. Is there any, it seems like people have gotten your opinions out. Is there anyone who hasn't had a chance to speak who would like, this is your last chance here to weigh in? Anyone? Going once, twice, okay. So Sue Ellen, I think you wanted 10 minutes at the end for something which I can't recall.
Well, we have time for announcements, which you want to do. And then our steering committee had decided that we'd like to try at every meeting to leave 10 minutes at the end for people to just throw out whatever's on their minds and other things they think we need to be thinking about for the future Watertown citizens. So I don't know if people want to do that. Some announcements are already made. I know Jennifer wrote about the Library Pigscusset new rep event, and I think, and
I have a couple of announcements.
a couple other announcements. So why don't we take whoever else has announcements, and then with the time we have left, maybe just see whether people want to throw anything else out briefly, brainstorming for the future. Not that we don't have enough on our plates already.
I think that brainstorming about future monthly meetings and specific, right? Is that what it was?
Yeah, and whatever's on people's minds about what the steering committee might want to be addressing in the future.
Okay. Well, let me just, I didn't want to repeat that. I promised Susan and I would repeat that the Tremadol concerts are going to take place, and they're featuring Katie Curtis on Saturday, March 20 at 7 p.m. And this is done to raise funds for the Sister City program they have in El Salvador. And you could, I think she put it in she put it in the chat anyway, so I'm not going to try to repeat the link. You can find how to purchase tickets for that event in the chat. I did want to announce, the thing I'm going to announce is on our website, so please feel free to just go to watertowncitizens.org. But there are two events I wanted to announce. One is a program called Water is a Human Right. And this is a program about about the Alliance for Water Justice in Palestine. We'll be presenting this program called Water, Health, and Human Rights, which is marking World Water Day from the US to Palestine. And that's on Monday, March 22nd at 7 o'clock to 8:30. And again, all the details about this program, marking the World Watertown Day from US to Palestine, is on the website. And then something that we haven't talked much about this in a while, but we are moving towards the anniversary of our invasion of Iraq. And so there is a program on March 20th, which is just a couple of days from now. And it's called Endless Wars, US Troops Out of the Middle East. And that's on March 20th from 2:30 to 4 p.m. And it really does include some of the amazing speakers. I wish I could be at it myself. But it is on our website. And if you have an opportunity, there are some great people who are going to be presenting on that topic. And it'll be focused obviously on how do we get out of the Middle East? How do we end the endless wars in Iraq and Afghanistan? So those are my three announcements.
Okay, thank you. Any other announcements? that we covered?
Yeah, another one on the 20th, that's also on our website, Trees and Climate Change in Watertown. There's a really nice symposium about Watertown's trees, and it's going to feature people like, I can't see the screen because there's a cat in front of it, but our town environmental planner and our new tree warden.
Nice. Good to know. Any other last minute announcements? If not, here's just like 5 minutes to speak whatever might be on your mind about what we should be thinking about in the future, besides the things that we've all talked about tonight. Or future things that Watertown citizens should help educate about or have discussions about. Eric.
Yeah, both with the Pigs Gusset Initiative and Watertown Citizens for Black Lives, but doubtless other groups and initiatives that I am less engaged in. Like a big theme is simply facing our history and not having to make it be beautiful all the time. Just facing it as a fact or a set of facts that we can live with, despite its messiness and complications and ongoing inequities and the damage that we're doing. And I just wonder if there's something that we can do that takes it out of the specifics and just talks about facing our history. Yeah, just a thought.
Wow.
Do you know, years ago, there was this curriculum, Facing History and Ourselves.
That was probably where the words came from because
Yeah.
we used it when I was a teacher.
They're still around.
They're still around. They're
Yeah.
still around.
I taught it, Deborah.
You've taught it. All right.
I've designed for them.
And you designed for them. All right, cool.
No, it was wonderful. Yeah. But I wonder if we could find some of the exercises or the progression that they use to move students through. And, maybe we could do a program on that.
All right. Thank you.
Before I forget, by the way, I want to mention any of you who anyone who's not familiar with the situation with Ruth Henry and the need to show support for her, that as this stuff erupted around this video she showed and dealing with anti-racism in the schools, and then just being raked over the coals and being threatened and all the things that have happened to Ruth that have just been appalling. A lot of us have all sent letters of support to the superintendent of schools. And I checked in the other day to see whether there's still an interest in letters continuing to be sent to the superintendent in support of Ruth. So I just wanted to make sure I'm reminding people that even if you've already sent a letter, anyone that you know of and your friends or town, other people from Watertown who might be willing to write a brief letter in support of Ruth Henry, it would be greatly appreciated. She really needs all the support she can get. And if you're not familiar with the situation and you want some help or advice or templates or whatever, people just can feel free to just email me. I can stick my email in the chat and I'd be happy to share some of this stuff with you.
Also, if you've got the monthly update or the monthly reminder that Deborah worked so hard to put out, there is a petition that is going around.
Right.
I believe they've already reached their 1,000. I think now they're on to try to get 1,500 names on it. And I think she and I made sure that, I think Deborah put that on there.
Yep.
And then we finally got that out. And I apologize if it was a little late. They were in constant contact, was having some technical difficulties and held it up a little bit. But you could get that petition, which actually does a pretty good job of sort of talking about what's going on in Watertown right now. And I thought that Sarah Pardo did a nice job writing it. And you could sign it. And it's, again, if you've gotten the email from us, just click on it and sign.
Any other last minute comments as we're coming to our closing?
Nope.
Well, thank you all for being.
I do think we should. I think we should go back to. I think we should try maybe at one of our next monthly meetings to. I know this is not, what we. I think we should have Watertown for Black Lives and some of the other groups that we had. We did this, I think, 5 months ago, but so much has changed since then. I think maybe we should think about one of our next upcoming monthly meetings, revisiting, having them and the coalition that's working with the police come again and sort of update everybody on what's going on and talk a little bit more about what people can do to support not only Ruth, but to just generally support the work around anti-racism. That's just the steering committee can talk about that.
So our next monthly meeting is going to be on April 21st, the third Wednesday of every month. And just so you might know or not, that April 22nd has now been announced as a subsequent or follow-up meeting of the Public Safety Committee to have this conversation about police services and police activities and programs. And the Joint Police Reform Group is hoping and trying to have our agenda restored and to be able to present at that meeting.
So Ellen, at what time?
It's 6 to 8 o'clock on the 22nd, Public Safety Committee meeting, and we had a great turnout, but we didn't get to present.
Yeah, and I don't know whether this Friday that was going to be the next meeting of that committee, whether the groups that were putting those proposals together might try to use that time for something. So just keep your ears open.
Okay, I mean, I know they did finally say that it was canceled or postponed on the
right. The committee meeting won't be happening this Friday, but there might be something this Friday. We'll get the word out if there is.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
Do we have, Tony, do we have a topic for our next?
No, we don't have a topic for the May meeting.
Can we, I think your suggestion about if the Black Lives if that group will present, I think that we should just ask them to do that. Is that if people agree to that.
We have a steering committee meeting on the 29th, so
Okay.
March. So
Okay.
I think maybe the steering committee can just figure that out.
Okay.
And it could be the joint police reform group as well, all
Yes.
3 member organizations.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's a hunger for more information around this, and but we could talk about it on the 29th. I did say we're still trying to get our annual meeting, which we think we're going to have to do virtual. And we're not sure because our annual meeting takes place in May and June, or May or June. And, some people are saying that we will be able to do it in June, but right now we're thinking of it as a virtual, and we're still trying to get Catherine Clark, Representative Clark, to be our keynote for that. So just, we'll have more on that as time goes on.
Tony, I have a real quick logistical question, if I may. Does the Zoom link for this meeting work for all the subsequent meetings as a recurring event, or each one is a unique event, unique Zoom link?
Yeah, each one is a unique event.
Okay. Thanks.
For the April meeting,
I think Abby.
Thank you. I need to leave. Thanks all for your great
Thank you,
participation.
Abby.
Oh, nice
you very
work,
much.
Abby.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right.
Thanks,
Thanks, Pam. Yes, Pam. Thanks.
I've been talking to the pollinator pathways people, and it looks like they will be available for April 21st.
We had talked about that. That's right.
Okay. So we can figure out more of that on the 29th.
Okay.
Of March.
Janice,
Yeah.
thank you very much. I appreciate it, Janice, and Marcy, thank you. Okay.
It's
My
great,
pleasure.
great having you here as guests, and great to see everybody.
Thanks
Okay.
for a great conversation. See you soon, everyone.
Okay.
Good
Thanks.
night.
Great talk. Bye-bye.